Good morning. Today on Spotlight, the campaign to reignite tourism in Michigan and across the U.S. after that heavy blow from the pandemic. What's being done in a public-private partnership to help? Chris Thompson, President and CEO of Brand USA, and David Lorenz, Vice President of Travel Michigan, will tell us. And later on our Sunday morning program, exciting news for Forgotten Harvest. What Kurt Mays, CEO of the Food Surplus Organization, is ready to share with the public. It's Sunday, May the 15th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. Chris Thompson and Dave Lorenz, thanks so much for joining us today on Spotlight from Tallahassee, Florida, and also from Lansing, Michigan. Let me start with you, Chris Thompson. You work on the national level looking at the entire country. Reflect back for a minute and paint the picture so that people really understand, and hopefully you can give me some statistics. What kind of impact did the pandemic have on the national tourism industry?
So thanks for allowing me to be with you this morning. Our focus at Brand USA in partnership with our federal government is on the international travel side of things. So in 2019, we had record visitation of 80 million visitors that crossed our borders into all our great destinations throughout the country and spent $233 billion. People don't realize it, but travel is considered an export. It's the product is the experience and the memories they take home, the money leave behind. And 9% of everything the largest economy in the world exports tied to what I do for a living, focused totally on international, what we do for a living in partnership with Dave. When the pandemic hit, our sector in particular was disproportionately affected. Pretty quickly when we realized it was going to be longer than 2 weeks and a couple months, our borders were shut, as they should have been. And we had to get on top of the health crisis and the safety issues that were at hand. Immediately, international travel was brought to a halt. In that first year, arrivals were down 76% internationally. Wow. You have to remember it was March, so we had a quarter of arrivals already, and our spending was down $150 billion. So pretty much the international travel industry was brought to its knees and shut down. And that was the case for about 20 months until last November 8th, when our borders reopened. And that gave us a chance to do like we always do, which is remind the world why they love the USA. I've always said this has not ever been a demand issue. We're no less aspirational. It was really just the ability for people to travel. They were challenged and obviously shut down from being able to travel.
Sure. Well, thanks for painting that picture for us. Dave Lorenz, obviously Michigan is a part of the U.S., so it was affected proportionally. But how important is the tourism industry to this state? How's it ranked?
Yeah, more important than most people realize. Travel and tourism is one of the biggest industries in Michigan. You know, you look at manufacturing, we're proud of our manufacturing heritage, our current situation and our future with manufacturing and such. We are a huge agricultural state, but that other third big piece of the economic puzzle in Michigan is travel and tourism. So when COVID hit us, just at a time when we were about to enter our busy season, it really devastated us. We lost tens of thousands of jobs, overnight. And we haven't come anywhere near to recovery yet. You think about it, restaurants alone, we probably lost more than 2,000 restaurants because of COVID. Wow. And most of them will not come back. Now, many of them will be replaced by new ones, but that will take some time. And the kind of the repercussions of COVID now, even as we're in the endemic stage, now we're having problems getting people back to work. And so we have these new kind of challenges that just keep on ebbing and flowing. And we need to get everybody back traveling, keeping people from Michigan, here in Michigan for a little while longer before we invite them to go check out some other places.
Sure.
Because we need our economy back.
What's the mission of Brand USA, and explain that so people understand this public-private partnership and how will you ignite or reignite this tourism industry?
We are focused on maintaining those 80 million visitors that come every year and that enormous amount of spend that they put in our economies nationwide and in all the states and cities around the country. So our focus now that our borders are open, we have a recovery strategic framework, and basically we have three comms tasks we're trying to accomplish. One is to prove we're ready. It's one thing to say we're ready. All the people from the outside are looking in and curious about whether those experiences that they were enjoying pre-pandemic are still there. Mm-hmm. Welcome the world back is the second comms task. There's been a lot of noise, a lot of generational things that have gone on over the course of the 2 years of the pandemic. Again, remind people why they love the USA. And then the third thing is, we're about inspiration, fueling that intent to travel at the highest level of the funnel. We need to do the best we can to actually push it down, for instance, to those that are looking at all the diversity of experiences that are in Michigan and put that in the hands of Dave and his partners to be able to take it from intent through consideration and into booking. And that's ultimately what we're responsible for, is to get our travel economy back to where it was. We talk all the time about hospitality being a warm and fluffy kind of sector because it's all about vacations and on the business side, meetings and events. But what we found out is the things that Dave promotes about Michigan that make it unique from any other state, or that he promotes in Lansing or in Detroit or any other city, are really the fabric of those communities. So not only did the pandemic bring our hospitality industry to its knees, but it really brought the fabric of our communities to our knees. So all the things that we enjoy and the reasons why we call the places home and the reason why we stay there. So
sure,
that's our job, is to get us back to where we were.
Right. Dave, before we go to the break, how does this tie into something that we're so familiar with here in the state of Michigan, and that's our Pure Michigan campaign, which did get some more money than in the state budget this year. What is it you need from Chris to tie into that to make this synergy work for our Great Lakes state?
Yeah, 16 years ago, Chuck, we developed Pure Michigan as a brand to tell the real story about what Michigan really is. Because as we remember, in the past, prior to that brand development, people would think of Michigan as, the old negative stories that they would think about Detroit primarily. And that's all they would know about Michigan. So we felt it was important that we not only correct those misperceptions about the beautiful community of Detroit and the surrounding area, but about the entire state, that we tell this story to the world, that we're a place with abundant natural beauty, really interesting, authentic Americana to offer in our cities as well, friendly people, and an environment where everyone is welcome. The lack of being able to be together has increased this misunderstanding of who we are. And so travel allows us to get to know each other and breaks down those barriers of misunderstanding. And as we travel again, we will get to that point again where we better understand that, hey, we all want a better life for our kids and grandkids. That's the most essential way that we're all the same.
Sure. We're going to take a quick little pause for the cause, and when we come back, talk maybe a little bit about how Americans' attitudes have changed, as well as foreigners, in dealing with the pandemic, but ready to get back out there and see the world. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight. Chris, talk a little bit about the projections that you've put out for 2022, 23, and maybe even a little beyond that, and how you even project in the midst of pandemic isn't quite what it was, but depending on the area, we see numbers starting to trickle back up. So there's always that uncertainty, even though people, I think, have learned how to live with this virus.
Sure. I think our generation has learned how to redefine uncertainty, because there's certainly been a lot that we've never had to deal with before. But as we were shut down and as our borders were closed, we realized that there were a lot of things outside of our control that needed to happen for us to get back to any semblance of pre-pandemic numbers. So the first was get the borders open. The second was, and I know people have noticed this and even felt this, that once the borders were closed, the airline industry was also brought to its knees. So particularly international routes were either eliminated or scaled back because they had to. There was nobody on the planes. Now that the borders are open, connectivity is coming back. But the forecasters that are looking at just international travel, and that's all that we focus on our own when we're doing our brand advertising and in partnership with great partners like Dave, As we look to that, and as the forecasters are looking to that, because of what it's going to require to get us back to levels of delivering experiences and the hospitality industry back up to full employment and full connectivity, they're saying it could be 24 or 25 until we see numbers that resemble pre-pandemic numbers. And then the uncertainty is still there. The last thing, we're starting to get rid of most everything that was tied to the pandemic that was influencing us and causing uncertainty. Of course, the mask mandate being relaxed was a big help, but the final piece that's still in place internationally is the pre-departure test that everybody has to do, whether we travel outside and have it coming back or as we're inviting visitors here. So we're hopeful that that'll be dropped, and that'll be the last piece of uncertainty that I think is causing people to pause or not come. And then I'm an eternal optimist. Certainly that was challenged over these last 2 years, but I actually think the return will be way quicker than the forecasters are suggesting right now. I know when our domestic economy opened up, it came back way more powerfully and way quicker than all the forecasters were saying. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be the case for the international side too.
There are so many other issues that people are kind of waiting for. Some people still are concerned about COVID. Some people just want to make sure that they've now had time to reevaluate life, and they're questioning whether what they did in the past is really what they want to do in the future. So we're encouraging our travel industry members to think about these issues, to really communicate with their staff, to make sure their staff knows that they are valued and they're doing something of value. Our industry often literally serves people. We serve people. Mm-hmm. That is an important function. And we're trying to kind of change the messaging and the thought about many of the jobs that are part of travel and tourism, that because you're a server or you're working at a hotel or you're working at an attraction, you're selling tickets or whatever you're doing, every day you have a chance to change somebody's life for positive ways or negative ways.
It's the people-to-people touch in the midst of all this technology out here.
It is. Yeah, so we really need to kind of double down on our hospitality efforts, and that's what we're trying to do. And I do believe, like Chris said, not only will the industry come back faster than people think, that Pure Michigan is going to do fine, and a big reason is because our employees and employers are going to be working together better to serve the needs of everyone.
Sure. Chris, I'm going to give you the final word in the 15 seconds or so we have left. Looking back, what did you learn the most from this unusual situation that when you look back and say, you know what, we learned something out of that that's going to serve us well in the future?
I think it's one of the things that's probably influencing the whole employment crisis is going into it, I realized I was a terrible teleworker. I was a terrible remote worker. And I think our organization and many organizations found that we could actually accomplish a good bit in that environment. So I think one of the lasting legacies is trying to figure out how do we balance the hybrid world with the face-to-face world. But I will tell you, Dave talked about the Pure Michigan brand being 16 years old. I would have thought it had been longer than that. It is one of the most successful brands out there at the state level, really at any level, not only just for tourism, but how it defines what the state represents across all of economic development. So with our great partners like Dave doing that in Detroit and in Michigan and all over Michigan, we're looking forward to getting back to a speedy return.
Well, we're proud of it, and we're equally proud of those awards back to back that our Detroit Riverwalk is getting nationally and getting a lot of attention. Chris Thompson, Dave Lawrence, thank you so much for joining us today on Spotlight. It's a pleasure talking to both of you, and best of luck reigniting tourism, and we'll stay in touch with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Remember, your trip begins at michigan.org.
I love that. It's become embedded in our mind. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. And when we come back, we'll turn our attention to Forgotten Harvest, an institution in this town, and some exciting new news. Kirk Mays will join us. Welcome back to Spotlight. Joining me now is a very familiar face, Kirk Mays, CEO of Forgotten Harvest. Welcome back, Kirk.
Thanks, Chuck, for having me.
It's our pleasure. Okay, everybody around here knows the Forgotten Harvest story. It's one of the best stories in Southeast Michigan and the state of Michigan. But you're adding a new chapter to it, and this coming Saturday, you're going to have a big unveiling open to the public of a new warehouse. Tell us a little bit about that and and what you expect with that.
Well, Chuck, first, thanks for having me and thanks for asking that amazing question. You know, we've all been through a lot over the last few years, and Forgotten Harvest has definitely been in the midst of trying to make sure that we're there for the community, to make sure we're serving and getting the food in place where people need it. Along the way, we've been having our own internal conversations over some years, even before we were hit with the pandemic, about what our vision is for our future and what it would take for us to really make sure that we make a deeper impact in the lives of people. And we really wanted to figure out a way to mix all the food that we touch on a daily basis and get it back out to people in a more organized fashion. And we needed a new facility to make that happen. We were able to get it built starting in November of 20. And it's now complete. On Saturday, May 21st, we're going to be inviting everybody to come out and check out the place.
What does this new facility do in terms of your capacity?
This will actually help us get up to a full capacity of 90 million pounds. I mean,
Wow.
now you got to appreciate the fact that, you know, Metro Detroit is our territory of service. We are getting rescue food from available businesses around here. So there's a side of our business where we got to find the food, but we have the capacity for Forgotten Harvest to grow for 50, 60, 70 million pounds in the immediate and distant future, and have the type of resources we need in order to redistribute that food and make sure everybody in the community has what they need at a high quality and nutritious level.
More logistical type of equipment that will go in, maybe perhaps even more automation and more space for all of the fleet of trucks?
Yeah, so we're going to be transitioning from our old facility, which is about 30,000 square feet. The new facility is 77,000 square feet. It allows us to bring the entire Forgotten Harvest team under one roof. For years, we've had a part of our administrative team renting office space outside of our headquarters. We're all back under one roof now. This also allows us to bring all the food back every day to one centralized location, our actual headquarters home, and actually do some additional work of actually gleaning through the food to make sure we taking out any of the things that shouldn't go out to the public, but also taking data to actually help us figure out what are the right combinations of food that need to go to each of our locations throughout Metro Detroit. So this is really a facility that's going to actually help us to transform the working operation and how Forgotten Harvest actually places our impact or makes impact in Metro Detroit by actually going deeper, by being able to get a greater equitable mix of everything we touch on every day to everyone we serve throughout the entire community. So we're going through the transition phase right now of moving in, and then we're going to be really putting a lot of work into transforming the model, looking at our routes and making sure everybody's going to have a little bit of everything we get on a daily basis, from farms, from grocery stores, from things that come in through shipments, from hydroponic growers. We want to make sure everybody gets a part of those loads on every shipment to everybody in Metro Detroit.
Absolutely. All right, we need to take a quick little break here. We will come right back and let's focus our attention on what this may mean in terms of volunteers. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Kirk May's Forgotten Harvest started way back in 1990. Food surplus has grown, your volunteers have grown, but this new facility, will this give you the ability to even leapfrog with that and have a whole lot more volunteers and maybe even more staff?
Yes, we definitely can sustain larger volunteer groups now. Before, we were able to do one group of 35 to 40 at the Oak Park Greenfield facility. Now at the new facility at 15,000 8 Mile, we could actually manage to do two groups of 50 at once. So we definitely have leapfrogged our ability, our capacity to take on volunteer groups. And as we get deeper into our model, we'll actually be able to have additional volunteer slots, because we're going to probably be extending the hours that we'll be working throughout the day as well. So that does mean we're going to have a few more staff people that we need to go bring onto the team to get the job done too.
Sure. I know you had a campaign goal. Where are you with that now?
We still want people to help us with that campaign goal. There's the brick program that if you want to get one of those bricks with your name on it, that'll be in our front. You can definitely get that. But we had a $17 million campaign and we were about $100,000 away. So if anybody is interested in helping us to get all the way home on that, let us know. Give us a call, 248-967-1500. And we definitely would love to talk more about getting us all the way home, or a community effort. Everybody get some bricks. Come by and see the facility on Saturday the 21st. And,
Open to the public. Right.
Open to the public, and enjoy this brand new, incredible asset from Metro Detroit.
Real quick final question. It almost boggles the mind when you stop and think about the amount of food surplus that is actually out there. And I'm not sure what that says about Americans. But do you see any leveling off on that, or you just think it's going to keep growing and growing?
The food surplus challenge, I do think that over time, you will see more efficiencies in that. People are very aware in the food industry about that, and at the end of the day, you know, efficiency helps to create margins for businesses, right? So I think the collective awareness of where the levels of food waste are something that definitely is creating new bodies of work for people to figure out how to reduce that. At the same time, there's just a part of the food business that produces waste. And you need services like Forgotten Harvest to be there to be able to not make all that investment and all that time and that asset of food to go to waste, and let's get it to somebody who's in need in our country. But the problem is unfortunately is going to be increasing a little bit before we get ahead of it and collectively start to reduce the waste that we see in our country.
Well, thank goodness Forgotten Harvest is around and has been around for a long time. And with this new warehouse, you're obviously going to be here for a long haul in the future. Kirk Mays, thanks so much for joining us, CEO of Forgotten Harvest, and best of luck with your big open house this coming Saturday.
Thanks, Chuck, and thank you everyone for everything that you've done for Forgotten Harvest throughout these years. Without you, we wouldn't be able to help feed Metro Detroit and the neighbors that we all love in our community.
Well, you're certainly welcome. I'm sure the community feels the same. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.